Most footballers, when their careers end, go into coaching, or punditry, or they open a restaurant, or they lend their name to a clothing line, or they spend their days at charity golf events. Socrates, Brasileiro Sampaio de Souza, Vieira de Oliveira went back to practicing medicine. He was a qualified doctor before he was a professional footballer. He smoked cigarettes on the training pitch. He drank heavily throughout his career. He led a players' revolution that turned his club into a functioning democracy. He turned down one of the most lucrative moves in the history of Brazilian football on a matter of political principle. He had a postgraduate degree in philosophy. He was also one of the most gifted midfielders of his generation, possibly the most gifted. A player whose technical ability was so far ahead of what his body suggested should be that watching him still produces a kind of disbelief. This is the story of Socrates, the man who was too interesting to be just a footballer, and too good at football to be just anything else. Socrates was born in 1954 in Belém, in the northern Brazilian state of Para. His father was a civil servant with a passion for ideas. He named his son after the Greek philosopher deliberately, with the intention that the name would carry weight and expectation. It did. He grew up in a household where books and conversation were taken seriously. He enrolled at the Faculdade de Medicina de Ribeirão Preto to study medicine. He was already playing for Botafogo de Ribeirão Preto at the same time, training in the evenings, studying during the day, sleeping somewhere in between. He qualified as a doctor in 1977. He was 23 years old and already a professional footballer. Socrates joined Corinthians in 1978. It was one of the biggest clubs in Brazil, with one of the largest supporter bases in South American football. The scale of the stage matched what he could produce on it. He was a central midfielder in an era when the position in Brazilian football was defined by energy and industry. Socrates redefined it through intelligence. He did not run more than he needed to. He did not press or chase or cover ground for the sake of it. He positioned himself where the ball was going to arrive, and when it did, he did things with it that other players could not. His back heels became famous, not as tricks, but as genuine first options, used because they were the most efficient solution to the situation in front of him. His passing range was exceptional. He could switch play with one touch or slide a through ball into a space that defenders had not yet realized existed. He was also, by any conventional measure, not an athlete. He smoked. He drank beer. He kept irregular hours. He was not built like a footballer and did not live like one. Coaches who worked with him accepted these things because the alternative was not having Socrates, and not having Socrates was not acceptable. In 1982, Socrates helped initiate something that had never been attempted at a major professional football club. He called it the Corinthians democracy. The idea was straightforward and completely radical. Every person employed by the club. Corinthians won the São Paulo State Championship in 1982 and 1983 under this structure. Socrates drove it not as a stunt, but as a genuine conviction. Brazil, in the early 1980s, was emerging slowly from 2 decades of military dictatorship. The political context was not abstract to him. He was a man with a medical degree and a philosophy postgraduate, and a clear sense of what power structures did to the people inside them. Football was simply the arena where he could do something about it. The Brazil squad that went to the 1982 World Cup in Spain is one of the most celebrated teams never to have won the tournament. That distinction is painful and deserved in equal measure. Socrates was at the heart of it. Alongside Zico, Falcao, Eder, and Junior, he was part of a midfield generation that played football in a way that made people who watched it feel that something important was happening. Not just winning, expressing, using the game to show what the game could be when the right people were playing it with the right intentions. They beat the Soviet Union. They beat Scotland. They beat New Zealand and Argentina. They were not just winning, they were making football look easy in a way that hid how difficult it actually was. And then they played Italy. Paolo Rossi scored a hat-trick. Brazil lost 3-2. They were eliminated. A team that had played some of the most beautiful footballs the World Cup had ever seen went home without the trophy. Socrates scored in that match. He played with the composure and the vision he always brought. It was not enough. Sometimes it is not enough. In 1984, Fiorentina offered Socrates a contract. It was one of the most significant offers made to a Brazilian player at that point, a serious club, serious money, and a pathway into European football at a time when Serie A was the most competitive league in the world. He turned it down. The reason he gave was political. Brazil was in the final stages of a campaign for direct democratic elections, the Direitas Já movement, one of the largest mass movements in Brazilian history. Millions of people were taking to the streets, demanding the right to vote for their president directly after 2 decades of military rule. Socrates said publicly that if the campaign succeeded, he would stay in Brazil. If it failed, he would reconsider his future. The campaign failed. The amendment was defeated in the Brazilian Congress. He stayed anyway. He chose Brazil over Europe. He chose his country and his politics over the money and the career opportunity that Fiorentina represented. It is the kind of decision that almost no footballer at the peak of their career makes. It cost him a chapter of his professional life that he never recovered. He never played in a top European league. He never had the platform that Serie A would have given him. He did not appear to regret it. Socrates went to the 1986 World Cup in Mexico. He was 32. The peak years were behind him, but the quality remained. Reduced in the physical dimensions, still exceptional in the technical ones. Brazil reached the quarter-finals and faced France. It was a match between 2 of the finest footballing nations in the world, played at a level that justified everything the tournament promised. After 90 minutes and extra time, it was level. It went to a penalty shootout. Socrates stepped up to take a penalty. He had scored penalties before. He was composed, technical, not someone who was intimidated by the weight of a moment. He struck the ball cleanly. The goalkeeper saved it. Brazil were eliminated. Socrates walked off the pitch. He did not play for the national team again. After football, Socrates returned to medicine. He worked as a doctor. He wrote a column for a major Brazilian newspaper. He appeared on television as a political commentator. He continued to drink heavily and to smoke, and to live in the way he had always lived, on his own terms, without adjustment for what other people thought he should be doing. He talked openly about his drinking. He did not frame it as a problem to be solved or a struggle to be overcome. He framed it as a choice. One among many choices he had made about how to live his life. Whether that framing was accurate or a way of managing something more complicated is a question that does not have a clean answer. He remained intellectually engaged until the end. He read, he wrote, he argued. He was not a man who retired from thinking when he retired from football. The curiosity that had driven him to medicine, to philosophy, to political activism, it did not diminish. Socrates died on the 4th of December 2011. He was 57 years old. The cause was septic shock, a complication of an intestinal infection. The years of heavy drinking had weakened the systems that might otherwise have absorbed it. He had been ill for some time. He had been warned by doctors, including himself, that the way he was living would shorten his life. He understood the medicine completely. He continued to live the way he chose to live. Brazil mourned him as a footballer and as something larger than a footballer. The simplest version of the Socrates story is the one in which football is separate from everything else, where you talk about the goals and the passes in the 1982 World Cup, and then separately you talk about the democracy experiment and politics and the medical degree, as if these were different people sharing one body. But that is not how he worked. For Socrates, everything was connected. The way he played football, with intelligence and principle, and a refusal to do things the expected way, was the same impulse that drove the Corinthians' democracy, and the decision to stay in Brazil, and the columns he wrote, and the arguments he had until the end of his life. He was a man who thought seriously about how to live and then lived that way, even when it was expensive. He knew the costs and he paid them. What he left behind is a career that does not fit the template of what a great footballer's career is supposed to look like. No European titles, no World Cup winner's medal, a body of work that peaked in tournaments where Brazil were eliminated before the final, a legacy built on performances rather than trophies. And yet, the people who watched him play remember something that statistics do not capture, a sense that he was showing you something true about the game, something about what football could be when a genuinely free mind had the ball. He was a doctor, he was a philosopher, he was a political activist. He was a chain smoker and a heavy drinker who played professional football at the highest level for over a decade and was brilliant throughout. He was Socrates, and there has never been anyone quite like him. Thanks for watching Athlete Archives. If you enjoyed this deep dive into sporting history, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. See you in the next one.